Hey everyone, it's Alex, and welcome to the Decks of the Week, the weekly series where I showcase the top 10 best decks in Marvel Snap. Now, this week is very different because we just had a massive OTA that completely upended the entire meta, and so this week is all about finding the new and emerging decks, the interesting decks that have solid win rates and solid cube rates, with a couple classics splashed in for those looking for some consistency to climb in the meta. If you like to support this content, hitting the like button is the best thing you can do. It's free. It's all that YouTube cares about. Let's get started with deck number one, and that's Negative Tribunal. Now, this negative style Sarah Tribunal has been making a bit of a splash over the coming weeks, but what's notable about this deck is that although it has the lowest win rate amongst decks on this list at 52, it has a very admirable cube rate at 0.33. Generally speaking, anything in the 30s and above range is pretty damn solid, with 20s being merely, okay. Right? But as a 0.33, it's a damn good cube rate. I think that it does very well in the meta, especially once, you have Professor X being taken out of the meta, so people are still experimenting with Hela, and Tribunal is one of those decks that can effectively trade with Hela power for power, especially with the nerf that Hela has received. So at a 0.33 cube rate, it is a deck, if you're a fan of Tribunal, that you can turn to rank up and climb on the ladder. That takes us to the next deck, which is going to be Sasquatch Bounce. Now, this here is a 53% win rate, although its cube rate is weaker at 0.22. Sasquatch has been somewhat underwhelming. Although it's still decent, the deck is performing pretty good. I tend to prefer these types of Angela kind of kitty shells that are running Thena instead, and we're going to see a couple of those kind of coming up. So if you're looking for a traditional bounce-based deck with Beast and Falcon, you've got it here. Sasquatch is performing well. But the reason why I really want to include this is because it is running Black Swan. And that's right, this is actually the highest win rate and the best cube rate version of this deck right now with our current statistics. And it has Black Swan in it. So it was a very cool addition that I wanted to include in the decks of the week because, I don't know, maybe Black Swan's time is coming, but maybe it's not. We'll find out as we get more statistics in the weeks to come. And we go to number 8, Toxic Surfer. Now, there's a couple Surfer decks kind of hovering around in interesting spots in the meta, but this one here has a pretty solid cube rate at 0.26 and a 54% win rate. I would like that cube rate to be a little higher, but it's a pretty cool deck. It's a really novel deck, and I think that you can catch people by surprise with this deck because the play pattern isn't as obvious compared to some traditional Surfer decks and even some of the decks we're going to be talking about soon. So anytime you have Hazmat, Luke Cage, and others, you got some fancy pants combos potential, which I think is really fun. So if you're looking for a fun new Surfer deck to try, you can try Toxic Surfer. Now, this is coming in and out of the meta every once in a while. It feels like every 2 months or a month and a half I talk about Toxic Surfer, but now is a pretty solid time to run it at a 54% win rate, and the meta is brand new. And the other thing about that deck is that there's a lot of Zoo, right? Which is we're going to be talking about soon, and Zoo gets destroyed by Toxic Surfer. Nomura is pretty damn good. Now, what's interesting about this deck is the win rate is solid at 55%, but the cube rate is actually kind of starting to fall a bit. It used to be much higher, but now we're seeing a 0.25 cube rate. These statistics are infinite top 50%, I'll add. The thing about this is that I think that the novelty of Nomura is starting to wear off. People are starting to identify its play pattern a little more effectively, and they're not getting robbed on the snaps as often because they're picking up on the, oh, it's Jeff and Nocturne by themselves and a Wong setup. I wonder what's happening, right? And this, you kind of expect this to happen. When a new deck is kind of new and hot, people aren't really used to playing against it, so you might be able to catch them off guard, but Nomura has been seeing more and more play over the last couple of weeks, and the result is that I think the cube rate is suffering as an effect. Regardless, still a pretty damn good deck, and I mean, it's an expensive one. You have Nomura, Sage, Nocturne. Like, it's basically like a team, like a tag team of all the cards that recently came out. So, an expensive one, but a good one. That takes us to number 6, and it's Classic Loki. I want to include Classic Loki. This is currently one of the versions of Loki that's performing the best. 56% win rate, a 0.27 cube rate, which is a kind of low statistically for Loki. The thing I like about this deck, though, it is running the Angela Thena combination with Kitty Pryde. I like it a lot. You also have the added tech of Red Guardian, which is very useful to ironically take out Angela's and Thena's, right? Or Thena's, I should say. I say it interchangeably. I know I'm saying it wrong. But I do think that Loki is in a pretty decent spot right now, still in the hands of a very talented Loki player. It's one of the best decks in the game, although statistically on aggregate, there are better decks out there. But if you're a committed Loki player, I think this is a very strong shell, honestly. It's statistically the best shell right now. And it kind of has everything you want to be playing. So I like this deck a lot. I've been playing quite a bit of it, and I think it's pretty damn solid. And it hits number 6 on the list. Number 5. Now, this is actually pretty surprising. These are post-nerf stats, and it's hella. It's still good. It's still really good. It's a 56% win rate. Hella's always kind of, win rate's always decent. It's never like a crazy win rate. The cube rate has remained pretty consistent, 0.43. That is solid. So, yeah, we lost a little bit of power, but how much did Infinite care? Not much. How much does Giganto care? Not much, right? So Hella's still outputting a lot of power. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are like, Alex, maybe we got to nerf Hella in a different way. Maybe taking a little bit of power off wasn't the answer. Maybe we got to make it so she only reses 3 or 4 or minimize that. I get it. But believe it or not, this Blink Hella package is still absolutely crushing it. So if you're looking to rank up, this is going to be one of the ones. It's going to be one of the ones. And to the dismay of many, Hella is still absolutely relevant. Number 4. Now, this is an absolute brew out there, and it is New Ronin. Now, it does not have many games on it. I think the game listing was like 235, which is like lower than I generally like to pick up on, but it's a Ronin deck, and I was excited because it had a 56% win rate and a 0.53 cube rate, which I think is remarkable. That is a fantastic cube rate. And it's running Miss Marvel, which we've not been seeing much of, and actually not a lot of activators for Ronin itself, with simply, I guess, a turn 6 Maximus, right, to just pump their hand a bit. It's just a pretty interesting deck with a lot of tech in it and just a lot of good cards. It's basically good cards Ronin with Sarah in there. It's interesting. Now, it's notable here that with Sarah, you can play Ronin and Maximus together on the same turn, right? Turn 6, you have a 4-costed Ronin, you have a 1-costed Maximus, so you have a little leeway into how you can, you know, I don't know, pump their handful of cards, which Ronin loves. So anyways, a very interesting shell right now. I'd be interested to see how this remains statistically coming into next week, because it's a new flashy brew, and it's doing well. But I would expect the numbers to slip slightly here, okay? But Ronin is actually a pretty big stat stick, and when he got buffed, people were playing pretty good with him. Like, his win rates, his cube rates was strong. He just kind of fell out of the zeitgeist. Like, we kind of fell out of our perception a little bit, and well, he's back. So give him a shot if you're interested in playing some Ronin. Top 3 now, and it's Phoenix Force. Now, I couldn't believe this. I actually double-checked with the secondary source. Phoenix Force actually crushing it right now, and I think it's those dedicated Phoenix Force players that are just kind of carrying it. Now, it takes some time with the move changes to get used to the new mechanics for Phoenix Force, because Phoenix Force was very, well, it obviously moved, but the way the moves worked were very important to the mechanics of the card and the strategy. And so Phoenix Force at a 57% win rate and a 0.36 cube rate is doing phenomenally well. And the thing about this deck as well is if you do not have the Phoenix Force itself, you also have the Shuri Nimrod byline where you can Venom and Deathlock and pump the Nimrods all over the place. Listen, I'm a huge fan of Nimrod. I love Nimrod. I usually do like a Nimrod Destroyer based deck, but this is actually outperforming that. So if you want to play some Phoenix Force with a nice backup plan with the Shuri Nimrod package, this is it right here. And it's like, this is amongst the best Phoenix Force has been statistically. So if you're waiting to dive in, definitely do so. But I will warn you, this is one of those decks that, like, you gotta practice. Like, I'm telling you, put in 50 games before you even look at your Untapped, and don't even cry at the statistics you see. You gotta master the way this deck functions, okay? So it's one worth checking out for sure at number 3. As we move into our top 2, one thing I'll mention is we're on our way to 100,000 subscribers, and I hope to do it in 2024. It's like my goal of the year. So if you're not subscribed yet, which half of you guys aren't, I just ask that you consider hitting that subscribe button. It would mean the world to me as we quest on to 100,000. I might even get like one of those like silver plaques. I'm super excited for it, but I can't do it without your help. So thank you so much for that consideration. As we move into the top 2, and Cersei Junk. I mean, listen, Cersei, I had so much fun playing Cersei. Although like I was losing quite a bit, I was having a tremendous amount of fun playing this card, and its cube rate isn't that great considering it's like a novel deck with a really strong package, but the win rate's there. And I mean, if you're going to play a Nihilist and Sentry and you're going to flip that Void into something with Cersei, that's pretty cool, right? It's a very interesting shell. You have all the Nihilist-based stuff, the Disruption-based stuff, and then you've got just the ability for Cersei to flip some value for you, right? It's pretty interesting. I like it. It's cool. I don't think Cersei is I mean, it's surprising in a competitive standpoint a little bit, but it's so inconsistent. But maybe, just maybe there might be something here. There just might be something here with Cersei. So if you've got the card and you're looking for the best shell to play her in, this is statistically the best one right now. And it's honestly pretty impressive. Cersei's doing some work in some very interesting ways. A remarkably fun card. Remarkably fun card. Whether or not it's going to be, competitive consistently over the next little while remains to be seen. But I have to say, damn, did I have fun playing Cersei. So if you have the card, definitely give it a shot here. Let's move on to our number 1 deck, and it should be no surprise when you take a Season Pass card and you buff the hell out of it while also buffing Shauna. They added a total of 4 points to this board state, with Shauna getting +2 and Gilgamesh getting +2. This deck is absolutely crushing right now, and there's a bunch of different variations of Gilgamesh Zoo right now, and this is statistically the best one. 0.49 cube rate, which is insane for a zoo deck, and a 61% win rate. It's nuts what this is doing, and this is why the Toxic Surfer deck is performing so well, because it's kind of like a rock paper scissors type thing, where if Gilgamesh Zoo is the paper, we got the scissors and the Toxic Surfer, right? So anyways, this deck is crushing it. You got the huge stat sticks in Call Obsidian, Mockingbird, Blarvel comes down, Gilgamesh just comes in with his absolute hammer fists. It's just a great, fun deck that honestly, there's some RNG with Shauna, but now that extra 2 points, she feels way better to play than before. Way better to play than before. And Mockingbird really appreciates Shauna and Squirrel Girl and everything else, and as is Dazzler, right? So the deck is just really well-rounded. And although it's expensive, like you have Nocturne, which is kind of expensive, Call Obsidian, Gilgamesh, obviously Season Pass card, you could build a pretty confident zoo list for relatively inexpensive with some replacements here and there. The deck is definitely better with Mockingbird and obviously Call Obsidian, but like Nocturne, you can change that card around if you so choose. So you do have some variability here for those that don't have complete collections. Regardless, thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate every single one of you. Good luck on the ladder, and we'll see you on that next Marvel Snap video.